among many other things, what you need is unity of purpose
Right.
if you're going to get anything done. And, my wife and I were at an event for Gloria Steinem when she was here recently, and they were sort of chanting.
You won't believe the heartbreak Sharon Stone is facing. After receiving a devastating diagnosis, her husband, Phil Bronstein, is saying goodbye. The truth behind their farewell is more shocking than anyone imagined. What really happened behind closed doors? Was this an inevitable ending? Or is there more to the story? As details emerge, the reality of their situation becomes even more heartbreaking. Stay tuned as we uncover the painful truth behind Sharon Stone's struggle and the farewell that changed everything. Sharon Stone and Phil Bronstein. One of the biggest stars of the 1990s was Sharon Stone, who was known for her beauty, talent, and charm. On the other hand, Phil Bronstein was a trustworthy editor and writer who was known for reporting the truth without fear. The worlds of Hollywood shine, and investigative journalism dirt couldn't be more different. But as soon as they got together in the late 1990s, there were fights. The media quickly became interested in their relationship. Since Basic Instinct and Casino were both big hits, Sharon was at the top of her game. Phil was making headlines in his own field by reporting from war zones and events that got a lot of attention. People were interested in their love story even more, because of how different they were. Their wedding was so big and fancy that it looked like something out of a fairy tale. The media was crazy about them. Sharon, the beautiful movie star, and Phil, the smart, thoughtful reporter. They seemed to have everything: love, success, money, and a fun, exciting life together. At first, it looked like their marriage was rock solid. They got each other jobs, went to red carpet events, and even started a family by adopting a son named Rowan in 2000. There was no doubt that they were a great match. Still, something terrible was about to happen behind the scenes. The tragic diagnosis that changed everything. Sharon Stone's life changed for good in 2001. It started out as a terrible headache, but quickly turned into a medical emergency. She was bleeding in the brain, which is called a brain hemorrhage. At first, the symptoms were not very clear. It made her feel numb, confused, and dizzy, but she didn't know how bad it was. Like a lot of other people, she ignored the warning signs. By the time doctors figured out what was wrong, she was in a very bad way. To stop the bleeding, she had to have surgery right away and spent 7 long, tiring hours on the operating table. There were not many chances of living. Doctors told her that she might not be the same again, even if she made it. The surgery saved her life, but the fight wasn't over yet. It was hard to get better. She had to learn basic things all over again, like how to walk and talk properly. She was in a lot of pain and couldn't remember things. She used to love working in Hollywood, but it moved on without her. She wasn't taking on the roles she used to. Since she was sick, she seemed too risky to cast. Behind closed doors, the emotional toll was just as high. Sharon was not the same person Phil married. She was fighting to stay alive, but it was clear that their relationship was suffering. The media used to be very interested in fairy tale romance, but it was slowly falling apart. The emotional goodbye. Phil Bronstein was there for Sharon Stone during one of the hardest times in her life. When she had a brain hemorrhage in 2001, he was there to help her get better. He helped her get through the tough rehabilitation program and watched as she fought to get back basic skills. At first, it looked like their marriage was strong enough to last the long, hard road they were on. But diseases change people. Sharon was no longer the woman she was before the bruise. Her emotions, thoughts, and body all changed because of what she went through. The damage to her memory meant she had to relearn simple things. The glamorous and sure-of-herself actress now had to deal with problems every day that most people couldn't see. At first, Phil did what any loving husband would do. He stayed positive, patient, and helpful. But below the surface, the weight was growing. Sharon's health problems changed the way they interacted with each other instead of just determining survival. They used to laugh and be at ease, but now they are stressed out and tired. To the public, they looked like a strong couple. They kept going to events together, smiled for the cameras, and did nothing that looked like it might be a problem. But behind closed doors, the gaps were getting bigger. Sharon's recovery went on for a long time, and it became harder to ignore the emotional toll it took on both of them. Phil finally made the terrible decision to turn away. In 2003, he asked for a divorce, saying that they could no longer get along. People close to them saw it coming, but everyone else was shocked. The love had been pushed past its limits when it seemed impossible to break. Tragedies can make some relationships stronger, but they can also break them down. The secret pain behind the breakup. There was more to the story. Even though no one knew the official reason they broke up, a lot of people were quiet for years after Sharon's bleeding. Reports came out saying that their emotional distance had been growing for a while. Because of her medical scare, Sharon got PTSD. She was depressed, anxious, and had trouble remembering things. Her confidence was hurt, and another medical emergency made her feel threatened all the time. Her body and sense of self were both getting better. Phil, a famous author, worked in a tough field. Some people close to him said that the constant stress at home was too much for him. Over time, their relationship got worse, and now Sharon's health took over their lives. After the hemorrhage, their relationship changed from when they were married to when they were together. Unfortunately, Sharon needed help, and Phil had a hard time giving it to her in the way she needed. Then there was the fight over baby custody. Sharon and Phil got a son named Rowan in 2000. Phil was given primary custody by the court after the divorce, and Sharon was allowed to visit. That was a really terrible blow. In later years, she said that missing daily time with her son was one of the hardest things she had ever been through. Rumors that Sharon looked for an unusual way to treat Rowan's foot problem may have had an effect on the custody decision. It didn't matter if what they said was true or not. Losing custody made things even worse. Sharon made it through, but the marriage did not. She started over with her life, found comfort in being a mother, and kept working in Hollywood. Even though the wounds from that age were still very clear, she wouldn't let them define her. There are times when love stories don't end the way we wanted them to. Phil and Sharon used to be a great couple, but now they both have problems that they can't solve together. Even though they were no longer married, they each went their own way, carrying the lessons of their past with them. What the world didn't see. Sharon Stone was a beautiful and talented actress who was once at the top of Hollywood. But after her stroke in 2001, everything was different. The world saw her as the same glamorous actress, even though she was fighting quietly behind closed doors. There was a sudden and violent brain bleed. One minute she was living her life, and the next she was in the hospital having emergency brain surgery. Even though she lived, the damage was done for good. She had trouble remembering things, speaking clearly, not getting tired, and being in a lot of pain. It got hard to do even simple things like read a script. Her line of work was hurt a lot. Hollywood is full of fresh, beautiful, and smart ideas. When Sharon showed signs of weakness, the company turned its back on her. Film offers went away. The studio executives stopped calling. Directors who used to praise her skills now saw her as a risk. One of the biggest stars of the 1990s is now having a hard time finding work. Financially, things went downhill fast. Her income fell without consistent acting jobs. Her fancy life was falling apart, and the medical bills kept going up. The woman used to live in multi-million-dollar mansions and had to fight just to stay alive. But being alone was worse for her than losing her job or having money problems. People in Hollywood love you when you're rising, but they leave you when you fall. Sharon quickly chose her best friends. She lost a lot of the people she had counted on. The fancy red carpet events, VIP parties, and invitations that never ended are over. She wasn't the A-list star that everyone wanted to be around anymore. Frustration and sadness set in. She was stuck in a life that didn't seem like her own for years. The woman who had been in charge of the screen with confidence was now having trouble even recognizing herself. Rising from the ashes. Sharon could have given up. Many people in her situation would have, but she refused to let her story end in tragedy. Slowly, she started rebuilding. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't quick, but little by little, she found her way back. One of her greatest sources of strength came from motherhood. Her son, Rowan, became her motivation to keep going. No matter how hard things got, she wanted to be there for him. Being a mother gave her purpose at a time when she felt like she had lost everything else. But the challenges didn't stop there. In 2008, she faced a bitter custody battle with her ex-husband, Phil Bronstein. The courts ruled against her, giving Phil primary custody of Rowan. It was yet another crushing blow, but Sharon refused to let it break her. She remained a devoted mother, staying present in Rowan's life as much as she could. Over time, she started working again. The big Hollywood roles were gone, but she wasn't looking for fame anymore. She was looking for purpose. She took on smaller projects, made appearances, and slowly reminded the world of her talent. She proved that no matter how many times life knocked her down, she would always get back up. But perhaps her biggest comeback wasn't in Hollywood. It was in sharing her story. In 2021, she released The Beauty of Living Twice, a memoir where she opened up about her struggles, her pain, and her survival. It was raw, honest, and deeply personal. Instead of pretending that everything was fine, she told the truth. She revealed that after her stroke, doctors gave her a 1% chance of survival. She spoke about the memory loss, the isolation, and the heartbreaking realization that the industry she had given so much to had abandoned her. She shared the pain of losing custody of her son and the long, difficult road to recovery. But most importantly, she shared how she found the strength to rebuild. Her memoir was more than just a book. It was a message to anyone struggling. No matter how hard life hits, you can fight back. Sharon Stone's journey is not just about loss. It's about resilience. She went from being one of the biggest names in Hollywood to almost losing everything. But instead of letting the tragedy define her, she found a way to rise again. She may not be the same actress she once was, but in many ways, she is stronger than ever. Hollywood may have turned its back on her, but she proved that real strength comes from within. Phil Bronstein's final decision. Sharon Stone and Phil Bronstein had a love story that captivated the public. She was a Hollywood icon, and he was a respected journalist. Their marriage in 1998 was a high-profile union of two powerful people from different worlds. They seemed deeply in love, and for years, their relationship looked unshakable. But behind closed doors, things were far more complicated. In 2001, everything changed when Sharon suffered a life-threatening stroke. The medical crisis came out of nowhere, and it left her fighting for her life. She endured 7 grueling hours of brain surgery and a long, painful recovery process. The stroke robbed her of many things: her ability to speak properly, her memory, and her physical stability. But it also stole something else: the sense of security in her marriage. At first, Phil stood by her, trying to be the supportive husband she needed. But as months turned into years, the weight of Sharon's illness took its toll. Caregiving is emotionally exhausting, and not everyone is built for it. Phil struggled to deal with the changes in their relationship. The woman he married, the vibrant, confident, powerful actress, was now battling cognitive issues, fatigue, and emotional distress. The dynamic between them had shifted, and he felt lost. Their marriage, once full of passion, slowly crumbled under the pressure. Publicly, they appeared united, attending events and smiling for cameras. But in private, things were falling apart. The strain was too much to ignore. The love that once seemed unbreakable was now hanging by a thread. By 2003, Phil made the heartbreaking decision to leave. He filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. But the reality was far more painful. He couldn't handle the emotional and physical toll of Sharon's condition. He walked away, leaving her to pick up the pieces of a life that had already been shattered. For Sharon, the divorce was another devastating blow. She had fought so hard to survive her stroke, only to lose the person she thought would stand by her forever. She later admitted that the split broke her heart. She felt abandoned at a time when she needed love and support the most. Despite the pain, Sharon did what she always did. She kept fighting. She refused to let the divorce define her. She focused on raising their adopted son, Rowan, and rebuilding her life. Phil may have left, but Sharon found strength in her independence. How the industry failed Sharon Stone. Hollywood has a long history of discarding women once they show signs of aging, weakness, or imperfection. Sharon Stone learned this in the harshest way possible. Before her stroke, she was untouchable. She was the ultimate movie star, stunning, powerful, and in high demand. She had the kind of career most actors could only dream of. But the moment she became vulnerable, the industry that once worshipped her turned its back. When she spoke about her health struggles, instead of support, she was met with doubt. Some insiders dismissed her symptoms, claiming she was being dramatic. Others whispered that she was too much of a risk to hire. It was a cruel reality. Hollywood loved her when she was the glamorous femme fatale. But when she became a woman battling real-life struggles, she was no longer welcome. Sharon lost work. The roles disappeared. The industry that once saw her as a box office queen now saw her as a liability. It was a brutal betrayal. She wasn't just fighting for her health, she was fighting for her career, her identity, and her dignity. Hollywood has a pattern of treating women this way. Male actors can age, struggle, or take time away, and they are celebrated when they return. But women are not given the same grace. They are labeled hysterical, difficult, or washed up. Sharon knew she was being pushed aside, but she refused to go quietly. She fought back. She used her voice to call out the industry's double standards. She spoke openly about how women, especially those over 40, were treated as disposable. She exposed the toxic culture that silences women when they become inconvenient. In 2021, she released her memoir, The Beauty of Living Twice. In it, she laid bare the truth about Hollywood, her personal struggles, and the fight to reclaim her life. The book wasn't just a story, it was a statement. A reminder that she was still here, still strong, and still willing to stand up for herself. Sharon Stone may have lost Hollywood's favor, but she gained something even more powerful: her voice. and she made sure the world heard it. Living twice. Life knocked Sharon Stone down in ways she never expected. She lost her health, her marriage, and her career all in a short period. But instead of giving up, she did something extraordinary. She started over. Rebuilding wasn't easy. After her stroke, her speech was affected. Her memory was weak, and even simple tasks felt impossible. Hollywood had moved on without her, and she faced financial struggles after years of medical bills and lost work. But Sharon refused to let these setbacks define her. She was still alive, and she was determined to make that life meaningful. One of the biggest changes in her life was her role as a single mother. Before her stroke, she and Phil Bronstein had adopted a baby boy named Rowan. After their divorce, Sharon fought to keep primary custody, but the court ruled in Phil's favor. It was yet another heartbreak. But Sharon's journey with motherhood didn't end there. She later adopted 2 more sons, Laird and Quinn. Raising 3 boys on her own wasn't easy, especially with her health issues, but it became the most important part of her life. She often says that being a mother saved her. At the same time, she used her experience to help others. After nearly dying, she became an outspoken advocate for women's health. She started speaking about the warning signs of strokes, which many women ignore. She shared how doctors originally dismissed her symptoms and how medical professionals often fail to take women's pain seriously. She wanted to make sure no one else went through what she did. Sharon turned her pain into a mission. She used her platform to push for better medical research and awareness, reminding women to fight for their own health. It was no longer about fame. It was about making a difference. But despite her new purpose, Hollywood still hesitated to welcome her back. The industry didn't know what to do with a woman who had once been a sex symbol, but was now seen as damaged goods. Sharon wasn't just recovering from a stroke. She was recovering from the way people had abandoned her. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Click on the next video popping up on your screen for more amazing content.